The day I lost my SEAL Trident. Every once in a while, somebody will ask me what that day was like. What was it like losing your SEAL Trident? Man, it sucked. It was a terrible day. I'll tell you a little bit. I'll paint the picture. I'll paint the scene for you of how something like that goes down. Not many people will ever understand what it's like to lose a special operator or special force tab or pin. Whoo, man, it's one of those rough wake-ups, man. That's a tough day. And it's not something I wish on anybody. And it's not something anybody has to go through if they make better decisions than I had. That was not a very fun phase or section of my life, my story. And this day in particular, well, let me paint it a little bit of the scene of that time. I had been pulled out of the platoon. I had just popped hot on performance-enhancing drugs, steroids. After the last arrest I had gotten, right, where I got tased and bit by the dog and all that shit for hopping in that golf cart. And they had tested me for drugs. I passed. They tested me for steroids. Big NCIS, Navy JAG, came down on me hard because this was the second time I had been in trouble. And I was bringing all the heat on myself, right? A cascade of shit was falling on me, and I had brought it on myself. And so that was the reality. So they asked me to piss. They were saying, we're going to test you for performance-enhancing drugs, because they had seen the police report of me pulling tasers out and fighting off dogs and brushing cops off and this and that. And they're like, this guy's got to be on performance-enhancing drugs. And guess what? I was. They sent that thing. I had a moment where I had a fake dick. And I looked at it and I said, man, fuck it. Let's just do this test right now, right? Let's charge the machine gun nest. What comes will come. And they set it up and it came back a couple weeks later. And I had known, I was just kind of waiting in that leeway. And during this time, I was kind of left to my own devices. The command master chief at the time was like, hey man, he understood that I was dealing with some stuff. I was dealing with probation violations and all this stuff out in town on the civilian side. Man, my life was in shambles. And so they didn't want me hanging around the command sweeping and doing bullshit, right? So they were cool with me on that. And I was mustering up. I was at the roll call one morning with all the support staff, and one of the support guys comes over to me and he goes, hey man, you popped. And I was like, for what? And he said, for steroids. And I said, okay. And right then I knew I was fucked. I immediately called an attorney and we started that process. So the command was obviously made aware, and I was still, on my own devices. The military, it takes time to process stuff. And during this time, I was at my girlfriend's house at the time, pretty much doing anything I could to forget about it, right? Deal with the civilian stuff. And then, man, I was doing yard work one day. I wasn't at the command. I was just clearing out brush in the back of her backyard, just cleaning it up, just trying to stay busy. And I get a call from the command master chief. And he says, hey, Cav, you got to come to the command right now. And I said, okay, well, I'm kind of dealing with stuff. I have a rental truck and this and that. He goes, no, I'm cool with you, man, but this is serious. You're going to have to come down here right now. It was the afternoon, late afternoon. I had a truck packed with brush from the backyard, prunings and all this stuff. And I charged down there, man. I threw my uniform on, drove down to SEAL Team 7, right before throwing some brush in the dumpster as much as I could, and then went up to the office. And up in the office, there was the command master chief, the ops master chief, and the commanding officer of SEAL Team 7. This was late November 2016 at the time. And they said, hey, come in here, shut the door. You know why you're here? I said, well, I don't know, but I'm guessing it's the hammer's about to fall. And the commanding officer said, yep. He said, we're going to have to pull your Trident. We're going to have to, this paperwork, we know the court case isn't settled, but this is what it is, man. And he said, are you going to be okay? How are you going to handle this? And I looked at him and I took a breath and I said, I'm going to handle it like I handle everything. I'm going to put my shoulders back and my chin up. I'm going to take it on the chin and keep on moving forward. Everybody just kind of took a breath and the Command Master Chief just nodded. And he said, all right, man. Well, it's all good, man. You can roll out, but just letting you know what's going down. And I walked out, went down to my cage, my locker, was kind of undressed, went back into my brush clearing clothes, right? Shitty t-shirt and fucking ripped up jeans. Man, and I went back downstairs and I pulled my truck back up to the dumpster at the command, man, and I kept unloading the truck of all the brush clippings from the backyard of my girlfriend's house, man. And I kept going. Yeah, I had to keep going to the command and doing stuff, right? But I didn't have the right to wear that Trident anymore. It was done. I had to cut it off my uniform the next time I went in there, right? And sitting in the truck, I pulled my knife out of my pocket when I realized I had a sewn on Trident on my fatigue uniform. This was maybe a week after when I had to come to command for something, man. And I cut that bitch off. I cut it off. Cut it out. And it was a moment, but people ask me, what was that moment like? Man, that Trident didn't make me, right? I had earned it. I knew I earned it. Man, he cut it off the uniform. Yeah, it sucks. It's fucking not fun. I don't celebrate it by any stretch. But man, I didn't feel that much different. Right? I didn't feel any different. I felt, man, it sucks. But man, walking around with that Trident off didn't change anything. Didn't change the fact that I earned it. I was mad at myself for having done dumbass shit to not protect it, right? To not be able to keep it on there and work as a SEAL, right? But the actual patch and what that represented, man, I just wanted to work and be respected by my peers and guys I worked with. And I had earned that through many years there, and still connected with a lot of teammates and guys that I respect and look up to who are still operating at the tip of the spear. That's why I joined. And that's why I wanted to be a special operator. Not a fun day. Not a fun process by any stretch of the imagination. But anything external you try to grab to validate yourself, be careful because it can be taken away. Me, in my case, I gave it away from doing dumbass shit. But, man, it doesn't make you. Anything you do does not make who you are. Right? It's some track record. It's some social proof of some shit you can do. But, man, as I found out, even when I was at the team, I was doing all those things. I had poor self-worth even after I had become a SEAL. It didn't fill that void, that hole of self-worth because I wasn't doing the things that we talk about, those daily disciplines that build that self-worth, right? Holding yourself to a higher standard, making better choices, holding that moral compass to true north, to the correct place. It's dangerous. Holding your whole identity on some external thing. Who you want to be, not what you want to do. Decide that. Who you want to be first and after and during. What you do, that's all cherry on the top, right? And as I got into the Foreign Legion, that was my next grab, man, some external validation. And when I got there, guess what? That hole wasn't filled either. That's where in that barracks room, in that cold French Foreign Legion barracks room, I had to start diving internal. I had to start healing self. There was no more places to go to claim some external identity. There was nowhere to go. SEAL, Legionnaire, French. What was next? What institution was next to put a label on me to try to throw a Band-Aid on my identity? Try to fix it. There was nowhere to go. So once I looked internal, once I started building those good daily habits, started holding myself to that correct guidance of higher consciousness that's speaking to us always, and started listening and applying, not just hearing, but applying. Man, then I started having back to back good days. No bad days. No fucking bad days ever. That's an amazing feeling, and that's amazing reality. Man, if you want no bad days, man, let me show you. I'll show you. If you're struggling, if you're hurting, right? That external validation, that job's gone, or that relationship's gone, or your life's kind of in shambles, and you're feeling like you're walking through fucking quicksand, email me, and then let's do it. Let's act. Don't just reach out and say, I want to change, and then don't do anything. Man, you're going to be right the same fucking spot next week, next month, next year. It's not going to get better. That time's not going to burn off. It's actually going to make it a lot fucking worse. We got to act. And it's simple. We do it daily. We do it every day. Hear that calling, and then apply and execute that instruction. Be smart. Out here.